Happy Wednesday, everybody, and thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. We got a lot to get to this show. First, we're going to talk, I messed that up. Why don't we just get to the break? Why don't we get to the opening and we'll get started?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk some Arizona basketball. We're going to talk some media day observations. We're going to talk a lot of different things. And first and foremost, though, let's talk about Arizona basketball at media day. Arizona was picked to finish second in the conference. And you know what? That's kind of, I think, where people are right now. I look at that and I think to myself, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I think that Arizona probably is somewhere about second in the conference. I do think, though, that there is a big difference between the second place or the top three in the conference and the second pick the top three in the conference, and after that, the rest of the conference. UCLA, Arizona, Oregon. Those are the teams that matter right there. Those are 100% the only teams that matter. And I think right now you have to look at it as UCLA. I get being the favorite. That makes sense to me, mainly because you bring back Jaime Jaquez, you bring back Tiger Campbell. Those guys are proven, and those guys are proven at the very, very highest of levels. There's really no other way around that. Those guys are all conference players. That's what an all conference player looks like. And if you were to ask me, I would probably pick Jaquez to be the conference player of the year. He's that dude. I think he's really, really good. And when you watch him too, he's got a little bit, he's interesting because he's got a little bit of that kind of that Luke Walton type game to him, in that, he's not really athletic, but he can also, as I take some gum, he's not really athletic, but at the same time, he can also kind of just get to where his spots. He's kind of got that old man type game, which everybody loves to see. Now, when it comes to his athleticism, his passing ability, all of that, he's next level. He not athleticism, but just as far as it goes, being a contributor on the court, he gets all of that. Then Tiger Campbell, he's a guy that you watch him and you really don't realize how good he is until you just don't really get it. You watch him and you don't really understand until you see it in person. You see how good he is. But he's a winning basketball player, makes a lot of really good things happen out there. Big time player, a guy that's incredibly impressive. Then you look at it and you say, all right, how about Oregon? Oregon ran the conference won the conference 4 out of 6 years. Dane Altman had a Final Four in there, an Elite Eight, but last year was a big step back, and it didn't make a lot of sense either. Now, one thing that is fascinating, though, about this Oregon team is that they're big and they're loaded up front. You got Kel Ware, you got N'Faly Dante, you got Quincy Guerrier, you got those are 3 players right there that are all good frontline players. Then you got Will Richardson at the point guard position. Will Richardson was a little bit of a disappointment last year. I don't think that I'm really breaking any news right there. I think people thought that he could be a conference player of the year type, and there were moments when it looked like he was going to be a conference player of the year type, but it just never really materialized. Now, when it comes to, Oregon, I think Arizona, and UCLA are kind of in the same boat. And what's intriguing to me about Arizona is that you've already got, obviously, you got Azuolas Tubelis, which I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting about. The thing with the Tubelis is that you got to remember that this is a player that a while back, that last year was all conference. It was and as a freshman, remember, and it's easy to forget, you put in 31 points, 8 rebounds against the Mobley brothers. Again, these are Mobley, but Evan Mobley is one of the baddest boys to play in the entire league. He is a total animal on the defensive side of the ball, and Tubelis was able to basically put up what he wanted against them. And he even talked about how he was a little bit surprised that, they were rated that high. And he wasn't talking, mess about him. He was just saying that, I was just surprised by that. Now, some of the other players that I think are fascinating that you look at, and from Arizona's perspective, is Pelle Larsson. Now, Pelle Larsson, Tommy Lloyd is a big, big, big Pelle Larsson fan. He has made no bones about it. He expects Pelle Larsson to be one of the best defenders in the conference, and he said that he expects him to be able to contend for the conference defensive player of the year. Now, a lot of times I think people would say, oh, well, that's just coach speak. So far, so good when it comes to what he's said in the past and about what Tommy Lloyd has had to say about that. So we'll see that. But then Oumar Ballo, big question mark, but I think a guy that a lot of people have a ton of faith in, and they should have a ton of faith in him, mainly because he is at about 6'11". He's incredibly big. He's incredibly big. He's well put together. And the big question is he going to be able to, how do I put this? Work on that quick twitch type muscle. Will he be that? And if he can be that, then he's going to be a real problem for people. I mean, because athletically he looks absolutely fantastic. Physically he looks absolutely fantastic. Now, some of the other guys, though, to keep an eye on, obviously Kerr Kriisa, he went with the Tommy Gunn to Media Day, and you can just tell with Kerr, he's got a ton of confidence. For me, though, it's beyond the confidence point. It's time to start now making some shots out there. If he can start making some shots, then they become very interesting. I just can't have any more of the 33% from the field and the three. That just isn't good enough for me. And quite frankly, it shouldn't be good enough for anybody. Now, I do think that when it comes to Arizona, Oregon, and UCLA, pretty much they got this right. I would have liked USC, but I'm also kind of at the point now with USC where, when you've got Vince, big man, I can't remember his name, when you got him who's not able to play right now, that's a problem. And it doesn't sound like he's going to be able to play all season. If he's not able to play all season, that's going to be an issue for them, because when you look at Andy Enfield teams, there's always that 7-footer out there. There's obviously the guy that blocks shots, that does a lot of different things out there. That's who Vince, I think it was Chukwuemeka, was supposed to be. Don't think that's going to be the case this year. So some people are buying on the Stanford bandwagon. You do return some pretty nice players. Again, the kid from Texas, his name escapes me, but they should be good as well. But again, I think this is a 3-horse league in the conference, and you know what? Sometimes there's nothing really wrong with that. But like I said, that's kind of where I view the Pac-12 being. It's going to be fun, though. Looking forward to this. And one thing you got to say about Tommy Lloyd. If Tommy Lloyd has another top 15 team with losing Benn Mathurin, losing Christian Koloko, losing Dalen Terry, you just got to say to yourself that You just got to say to yourself that, all right, he gets it. He knows how to develop guys. There's really no questions about it. We'll find out if that's the case. Okay. Now, I'm going to switch over to a little bit of Arizona football here. Okay. Now, Arizona USC coming to town. This should be an interesting game right here because USC, there's very, very few times when you will ever see a USC team and you say, you know what, I'm not sure that they have better wide receivers than Arizona. And again, I get how silly that sounds. But when it comes to Arizona, yes, USC has Jordan Addison. That's fantastic. But also, Arizona, let's just say Jordan Addison's better than Jacob Cowan. Don't really have a problem saying that. But I'll tell you this, T-Mac and Dorian Singer are better than their 2 and their 3s. And that's a testament to Jed Fish right there, because you generally don't see guys come in and you generally don't where, you look at USC's roster and you say to yourself, who's actually more talented here at that? Now, again, there's other positions on the football field, but it's still just fun to talk about USC, Arizona, and being that, wondering who has more talented receivers. Now, at the quarterback position, obviously, I think you could make the case that these are 2 of the 3 best quarterbacks in the entire conference. You've got with drawing a total blank. Oh yeah, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a better NFL prospect than Jaden DeLora is. He's a top 10 player, went to Oklahoma, was as a freshman. He's going to be he'll be that guy again and he's been that guy again at USC. And again, he's got Jordan Addison to throw to. He's got Gary Bryant. He's got Brendan Rice. He's got Mario Williams. He's got a lot of different guys. Then out of the backfield, you got Travis Dye. So again, it's a very, very talented squad right there. But Arizona's passing game, I don't know that he's that much better than Jaden DeLora. I really don't know that, because you watch DeLora, and again, he was a Pac-12 freshman of the year last year, but you watch how he moves around. You watch the kind of plays he makes, and it's impressive. This is not just a merely good Arizona quarterback or merely a good Pac-12 quarterback. This is just a good quarterback, period. And so, again, we'll find out, more in this game, but there's every indication that he's going to be able to put points on the board right here. And if he can put points on the board, maybe it makes it a little bit interesting. I don't see how Arizona is going to stop SC. That to me is my biggest concern, obviously, because it does feel like USC could probably throw up 300 points on the Cats. But the Cats are going to have an opportunity to score points. And if I were to tell you that Arizona is going to be at, let's say Arizona is going to be at, the score is 28-52, that's probably in line with, at least what I think it's going to be. That's what makes the most sense to me. I'd love to be wrong on that, but I do think that's probably going to be the case. Now, when it comes to some of the other players out there, somebody to keep an eye on, somebody that could be an X factor in this game is our guy Tanner McLaughlin. We love Tanner McLaughlin on this show. Keep in mind, transfer from Utah, didn't do a ton at Southern Utah. Transfer from Southern Utah, didn't do a ton at Southern Utah. Shows up, starts back in the A, and all of a sudden he's one of the best tight ends in the conference. Looking for big things out of McLaughlin, and I could see him being a real game changer in this game if Arizona is to keep this close. All right, now, something that's also a game changer is LinkedIn. All right, here's the deal with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the number one place for all of you job applicants out there, or you people looking to hire. And that's because LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege has a long and proven history of helping out others. Everybody knows somebody that got a job on LinkedIn. Everybody's on LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn, what are you doing? You should be on LinkedIn. But, LinkedIn, though, is also, like I said, LinkedIn's a great spot to be able to get all of your best, all the people you need. Like I said, I've known people that gotten jobs from there. You've known people that gotten jobs. Get on LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. Check it out. And again, get on there And because you can find the people you need, LinkedIn does all the dirty work for you. That's where it's at, LinkedIn. Come back with us. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit of around the Pac-12, around the conference here. Now, where does Arizona land? The problem with Arizona is this, and I think we know enough by now. Arizona can certainly beat ASU. Arizona can certainly beat Washington State. I'm not breaking any news there. But Arizona, to me, is probably about the 7th or 8th best team in the conference. I don't believe, and again, there's a lot of teams that I wish that Arizona could play again, because I think that I think Arizona would be in a better spot. My real spot is, or my real thing that I think with Arizona is that, you're ahead of schedule. Now, again, the defense is awful, but offensively, they corrected that in one off season, and that is big kudos to Jed Fish, obviously. Now, the rest of the squad, though, you're going to have to dip into that transfer portal, because think of it this way. If Arizona had a good defense, or not, but you know what? Forget that. Not even a good defense, the 8th best defense in the conference. All of a sudden, Arizona looks a lot different, I think, to teams. And you're probably looking at a 7 or 8 win team right there. Could be wrong, but again, I think you're looking at a 7 or 8 win team, something along there, because again, there's a lot to, when you've got this kind of defense, you're going to be able to cause some real issues out there when you got that kind of offense, you're going to be able to cause some real issues out there on the defensive side. And again, that's what I think is intriguing about Arizona right there. So we will, keep you up to date on that. I don't know exactly where Arizona is going to be next season, but if you look at their schedule, it's a pretty opportunistic schedule right there. And we're going to talk about that a little bit on the other side. But first, I want to tell you really quickly about SweatBlock. SweatBlock, have you gotten to the point where you're putting artificial stuff in your armpits or whatever to try to make it, to cover up your sweat? Don't be that person. There's no reason to be that person. So if you're not going to be that, if you don't want to be that person, I don't want to be that person. That's why you get SweatBlock. And again, it's great for you active people out there. Check it out. SweatBlock's where it's at. Take a quick break. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we're still talking a little bit about around the conference right here and about what the future holds. Now, one thing about Arizona, they were dealt a very, very tough out-of-conference schedule this year, especially for a team transitioning. You've already got a Mississippi State, which is top 25 team. Then you got North Dakota State, which you ended up winning. But again, that's generally not the easiest team. Then you got a San Diego State. Now, Arizona was able to go 2-1 out of conference, which is absolutely fantastic. In conference so far, you beat Colorado, and you got to find some more. You got to find some more wins. And again, I think that those wins are there to be had. You can find an ASU, to me, is totally beatable. ASU sticks. You watched them against Eastern Michigan. Yes, I know they beat Washington, but you watched them against Eastern Michigan. You watched them against Eastern Michigan. You watched them against Stanford. You can just tell they're not very good. Arizona can absolutely win that game. Arizona can also beat Washington State, in my opinion. So there are wins, again, there to be had, but Arizona's got to stay the course. And the one thing that you want them to continue to get better offense, or continue to grow offensively. I think defense is going to be something where it's going to basically take them until this offseason to get better defensively. And even then, who really knows? But offensively, you don't want to take any steps back. You got a healthy unit. You got a good unit. Continue to make all of that happen. All right, we're going to be back with you tomorrow. We're going to give you our prediction in Arizona USC. Again, homecoming's here. Back the A. Show up if you can. Again, this is the time. Arizona football is here. They need your support. Going against one of the best teams in the country. So again, we will be back with you with our predictions tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Locked On Wildcats.